where we have not done so well as a country is getting new nuclear power stations. I think you've been to China. Is there any chance of the Chinese coming to build nuclear power stations in this country, as they've been doing in Africa, for instance?
Well, I've been involved in the nuclear negotiations for some time now. Ever since I've been in office, I've been looking at it in minute detail, and we're extremely close for a deal with EDF. And if and when we get that deal, I'll announce it to Parliament, and I think I'll be able to show that it's extremely good value for money for consumers, helping people with their energy bills long term.
Can I ask you about China specifically?
I'm coming to China. I have been to China. I had a very important visit where we did a lot of work on energy efficiency and offshore wind. I signed a memorandum of understanding with the Chinese on offshore wind, but I also saw all their nuclear companies. I talked to the government about Britain's nuclear power, about opportunities for British nuclear companies in China. And the Chinese, along with the Koreans and the Japanese and other countries, are very interested in the opportunity in Britain's nuclear sector.
So you think we could have Chinese-owned nuclear power stations in this country?
I think it's really possible that we'll see massive Chinese investment, not just in nuclear, but across the board. And I think we'll see massive Japanese investment and Korean investment. It's really critical.
I'm not sure that the idea of a Japanese nuclear power plant on the British coast would go down terribly well for obvious reasons.
Well, we have a very strong nuclear regulatory regime. And one of the things I was doing in China, and we had huge progress in China, by the way, one of the things that I was doing there was explaining our rigorous and robust regime and how it would apply to anybody, whether Japanese, Chinese, coming here. But let me be clear. If and when I secure a deal, and as I said, I think I'm extremely close, I will take personal responsibility for that deal. I've been the minister leading those negotiations, leading the discussions with the Chinese, and when it comes to making that announcement to Parliament, I'll make it, and I'll take personal responsibility for it.
What scale of investment are we talking about here? Because it'd have to be pretty huge.
Tens of billions of pounds if you look at the whole nuclear programme. People have talked about a £50 billion programme in the first phase. Obviously, I'm not going to the details about any particular negotiation. You wouldn't expect that.
But by the time of the election, you will hand over a power system which has got new power stations being built, and that sort of fear that a lot of people had of the lights going off in 10 years will have gone.
The lights are going to stay on. I have to say, since this government came to power, we've been running to increase energy investment. Labour's energy investment record was frankly shocking. They were negligent with energy policy and climate change policy. We're the ones who are delivering both the new power stations, the policies to attract the billions of pounds investment, and the policies that are pushing us green.
This does sound like a done deal, pretty much. I mean, I know you want to wait until the ink is actually dry on the paper. But it sounds like you've come to an agreement.
No, I'm not going to say that. We are extremely close. I've made that very, very clear. We've had months, several years, frankly, of negotiations. It's a very complicated deal. My key concern throughout was making sure the price was right. Let me explain. This is really important. My concern as a Liberal Democrat about nuclear power over the years has primarily been about cost, because nuclear power historically has been extremely expensive. People in the past, governments in the past, haven't included the waste cost, the decommissioning cost. I said no, we're not going to do that. They have to be upfront. And when I make the announcement to Parliament and the people look at our figures and they'll scrutinise them very robustly, I am convinced I'll be able to look consumers in the eyes, look business in the eyes and say, we've got a great deal.